for me, this has been amazing. It's really transformed my experience of using the Switch. It's really transformed how I use the Switch. The Nintendo Entertainment System was a big part of my childhood. I've owned every Nintendo console since, and I've always loved Nintendo controllers. But there is an exception. If you've watched one of my videos, you'll be aware that I'm not a fan of the Joy-Cons that come packaged with the Nintendo Switch. I do love the concept of gamepads that can be disconnected from the games console. However, Joy-Cons are easily the worst controllers that Nintendo have ever made. They feel cheap, the D-pad is awful, the buttons are too small, and the thumbsticks suffer from the worst stick drift I've seen on any game controller. This is why I always play the Nintendo Switch using the Switch Pro controller, which, alongside the Wii U Pro controller, are two of the best controllers Nintendo have ever made. Thankfully, a lot of third-party gaming companies have addressed the Joy-Con issue by releasing great alternatives to Nintendo's official Joy-Cons. One such company is Hong Kong-based NYXI, which I've been pronouncing as NYXI, but I'm not sure how the company pronounce their brand themselves. Nintendo Switch fans may be aware of this company already, as they have released premium Joy-Cons for the Switch, such as the Hyperion and the Wizard Wireless GameCube controller. The company recently sent me their Hyperion 2 wireless Joy-Cons for Switch to test out and to review, which I obviously do appreciate, but as you know, it doesn't influence what I think or what I say to all of you. Retailing at £61.81 here in the UK and $79.99 in the USA, the Hyperion 2 is compatible with all variants of the Nintendo Switch, the original LCD model, which I own, the OLED model, and the Switch Lite. These Joy-Cons support vibration and Bluetooth 5.0, allowing you to connect up to 10 meters away. The left and right gamepads weigh 80 grams each and include a 500 mAh battery inside. These batteries take 2.5 hours to charge to full. The Joy-Cons have support for 6-axis gyro motion sensing too, which is something which is utilised in games such as Splatoon and Legend of Zelda games such as Breath of the Wild and its sequel Tears of the Kingdom. The colourful neon lights on the controller really help make the Hyperion 2 stand out from the crowd. There are 4 colour modes and 8 colours to choose from. Whilst I do think the RGB lighting looks cool, you may want to consider disabling this feature, as this will increase battery life from 5 hours to 10 hours. This is still significantly less than the quoted 20 hours of battery life which the official Nintendo Joy-Cons have. But in practice, you may not notice any difference, as the Nintendo Switch itself usually lasts between 3 and 6 hours. So the Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons will charge back up when connected to the Switch, when you're docking your Switch or charging it directly using a Type-C cable. The Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons feel very nice to hold, as they're larger than Nintendo's Joy-Cons and have better grip. They feature clicky mechanical buttons, and there are turbo buttons on the front and programmable paddle buttons at the back, and the front of the controller features magnetic face covers, which are replaceable. The big selling point of the Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons are the Hall effect thumbsticks. They feel great in the hand and have zero stick drift, which, as I noted earlier, is one of the biggest problems with Nintendo's Joy-Cons. The Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons do lack infrared sensors, and there's no NFC reader for Amiibos either. The official Nintendo Joy-Cons also feature HD rumble to ensure realistic vibrations, and in comparison, the vibration isn't as good on the Hyperion 2. None of these limitations are deal breakers for me personally, as they don't really affect the games that I play, but you should be aware of these minor differences in the Hyperion 2. Let's take a look at what you get when you buy the Hyperion 2. In the box, you will find a user manual that explains how to use the controllers, whilst the Joy-Cons themselves are stored in a useful hard plastic carrying case. When I first took the Joy-Cons out of their case, I was really surprised by how big they are in comparison to Nintendo's Joy-Cons. They look premium and they feel really nice to hold. The case has space in the middle for the NYXI rechargeable mid-bridge. This is an add-on accessory that allows simultaneous charging for the left and right Joy-Cons. It retails at £5.40 in the UK and $6.99 in the USA. Just like Nintendo's Joy-Cons, you can connect the Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons to your Nintendo Switch by simply sliding them in at the side. And just like the official Joy-Cons, the Hyperion 2 controllers will automatically charge when the Nintendo Switch is connected to the AC adapter and is powered on or is in sleep mode. As the Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons are larger than Nintendo's Joy-Cons, my Nintendo Switch will not fit into the existing case that I own. This was not a surprise, as the case was designed for Nintendo's Joy-Cons and it was always a snug fit, so larger Joy-Cons were never going to fit in there. I haven't purchased a replacement case for my Nintendo Switch as yet, though NYXI do sell compatible cases for all of their Joy-Con controllers, and they look like they do offer good protection and storage. So that's something that I will consider in the future. What I'd like to do in the next few sections is give you an overview of how you can customize your Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons. Now, I don't want to reproduce every little thing from the manual. There's a lot of things in here, such as calibrating the controller, waking up the controller, the console, resetting, etc. I'm not going to cover that because, I'm not trying to repeat what's in the manual verbatim, but I do think it's good to understand how lighting works, how turbo buttons and the additional buttons, etc. work, because these things may influence whether you buy or don't buy the Hyperion 2. So I'd like to start off with lighting. You can see that lighting is on here, and as I noted earlier, if you do have the lighting on, your battery life will be decreased. So turning it off will increase battery life, but many people may just want to keep the lighting on. I understand that because you will charge the battery back up when you're charging your Switch anyway. Now, I've got the Joy-Cons connected here to my Switch. Key to note here, this is obviously the button which I'm sure you're aware of. You press that and you can slide it in and out. But underneath here, we have a lighting button. If you look there, you can see there's a little light on there. Now, there's a lighting button on each of the Joy-Cons, and that's kind of how a lot of these customizations work, in that there's a turbo button and a lighting button, etc. on each of the Joy-Cons, and you kind of have to calibrate them individually rather than together, which is quite good because it means that you can really change things up. For example, you can make this red, you can make that green, etc. So when you press that lighting button at the back, you'll see here on the left Joy-Con that it cycles through a few different modes. Now, the first mode there is RGB mode, which is the default mode. If you press it again, it's a static color. Press it once more, it's a static color, but you can see it's pulsing, it's breathing in and out. And the last mode is disabled. That's the mode to choose if you want to save your battery life. So press it again and I'll go back to the RGB mode. Now, if I go to the static mode or the breathing mode and I hold in the lighting button and then I push left or right, you'll see that the color is changing. So now I've got it red there, but if I push the light there, you can see it's still white there. So you can customize these individually, like I said. Put that back to RGB. So that's left and right. That will do the colors. Now, if I hold in the lighting button at the back again and go up and down, you'll notice that the strength of that color is going up and down as well. So you can adjust the brightness there. Like that. So, in summary, you push that button, you will cycle through the different modes. You hold it in, left and right, it will change the color. You hold it in and you go up and down, it will change the intensity of the color. What I'd like to do now is show you how turbo works. Now, turbo works the same way as lighting in that there is a button on each of the Joy-Cons and you can configure things using each of those buttons. So the turbo button here will affect the D-pad and the shoulder buttons, and the turbo button here will affect all of these buttons and the shoulder buttons here. Now, I'm not going to be using this myself if I'm honest, but I know there's a lot of games that could utilize this. Now, I'm not going to show you the manual here. It's a little bit small to show you all of that. So I'll jump across to the PDF and you can see I'm in the section called Turbo Function Settings. So effectively what happens is you hold the turbo button on one of the Joy-Cons and then you press an associated function key or button and it will cycle through the different modes. You can clear it by holding the turbo and the minus or the plus, and you can adjust the speed as well. So I've got Zelda open here because I think this is a good example of how you could use it. So if I push Y here, like just an individual attack like that, very straightforward. Now if I hold turbo and then hold it there like that, now if I press it, if I do it again, see how it's just it keeps going because it's now set as turbo. If I press it again, I've only pressed that once, and you saw the difference here because initially it was just one attack and now it's just continually going. I don't think that's particularly useful in this game in Zelda, but there are games where that might be very useful. Maybe you're doing, playing a shooter or something like that. Now to clear it, you can just hold the plus and then hold turbo. There we go. And if I press it, I'm back to normal. So that's how turbo works. Each of these Joy-Cons have an additional button at the back. These paddle buttons here, ML left and MR right, are disabled by default. So they're kind of in a position where they're very easy to press, very natural position, but you don't have to worry about these because, unless you've set them, nothing will happen. This one has been set because I've been messing about with it, but I'm going to just quickly reset it. Like so. Push the button at the back, and it's not going to do anything anymore. I'll reset that now. I'll show you how that works in a second. So you've got these additional paddle buttons at the back of the Joy-Cons, and if I jump back over to the manual, you'll see that it's under a section called Programming Settings. And effectively what you do is you hold the T button and then the paddle button, and it'll put it into the programming mode. So you do that, and then you just assign the button. So I'll show you how it works in practice. I'm going to hold the back paddle here, the MR, and the turbo button, hold it in. It should go green. There we go, 3 seconds. Once it's in this mode, you simply press the button that you want to map. So previously the back button was doing nothing, but I want to map it to the attack button. And then I simply press the button again, the back paddle, and that's me back. So now I can attack using that, or I can attack using that. I think in certain games this would be very, very useful, first-person shooters, maybe some football games, etc. So yeah, very, very useful, and I really do love the position here. And the great thing about it is that if I just push the T button and the MR button again, goes green, I press the back paddle like that, and now it's reset. And what I like about that is that I can quickly assign a button in a particular game, like attack or something, and if I then play a different type of game, a different game altogether, etc., I can remap a completely different button, and I can remap the same on the left hand side. So I think it's a great option there. I think that's a really cool feature. It's not essential, certainly not essential functionality, but a very nice perk, a very nice bonus, and it's something which I would, myself, I would find this very useful in some of the games that I play. What I'd like to show you now is vibration. So I've disabled the audio filters that my overhead microphone normally uses, which I use to cancel background noise, etc., because I want you to hear the vibration. So the vibration here, it's okay, it is supported, but it's not as good as the HD rumble you'll find in the official Joy-Cons and the Switch Pro controller, etc. But we do have vibration. Now, if you're in your Switch and you go down to, controllers and sensors, you can see that we've got an option here. And if I press it, you may be able to hear that. It's a very intense vibration. A very intense vibration. But if we jump over to the user manual, you'll see that there's 4 options there. You can disable it, weak, medium, which is default, and strong. And all you do is hold the T button, the turbo button, and then move the left joystick up and down. That's all you have to do. So again, for each of these controllers, you have to set them individually. So I'll hold the turbo and I'll go down, and then And you can hear how strong that is. It kind of feels like a little motor running with a little fan behind it. So that's it. So I don't really care about vibration myself. Not really. I normally disable it in games, and if I use it and it's annoying me, it's just not something I'm a big fan of. I would say that it's good that vibration is here. It's good that you can adjust the settings. I think the lowest setting is the one that I would use. The higher setting is just really horrible. Really, it's like a kind of high-pitched, vibrating, buzzing sound, and I don't think that really enhances any game that I would play. But it's very easy to use, and it's very easy to disable as well. So there's no HD rumble. There is vibration, but I would encourage you to mess around with the settings, maybe lower it, depending on how you feel about vibration. What I'd like to do now is clarify a few things which I think anyone who is looking to buy the Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons should know. The first thing to know is that the Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons are still new. So NYXI seem to be very good with selling accessories and replacement parts for all of their controllers, but at the time of recording, there doesn't seem to be any Hyperion 2 specific accessories available beyond the mid-bridge that they sell. So, for example, the replacement faceplate. I think this is a great idea. I do like the transparent option here, the default option, but I like the idea that you could replace it with, different colors, green, blue, red, etc., perhaps different designs. And I like the idea that if I had to drop the controller and break it, I can get a replacement. Now, at the time of recording, there is no replaceable faceplate available for these Joy-Cons in the NYXI store. I did email them about this to clarify where they are, when they're available, etc. I made the mistake of asking a few questions at the same time, and they didn't answer the question. So I'm not sure when we're going to see replacement faceplates. I'm sure we will at one point, but I don't know when it will be. Likewise, NYXI sell some like replacement kits, etc. for their other controllers. I like to see that. I do like to see replacement parts. At the moment, those sales pages don't say that they're compatible with the Hyperion 2. Doesn't say that they're not, but I'm not sure if they are or whether we're going to see a different kit released on the store. So that's important to know. Now, I mentioned the mid-bridge there, and I kind of touched upon it earlier, but the mid-bridge will help you do something like this. This is the official Joy-Cons and the official Joy-Con charging grip. And I'm sure you've all used this before. It's not a great controller, in my opinion. It's certainly no replacement for the Switch Pro. But if you've got a friend coming around, it's a great way for them, you get the Switch Pro, or they get the Switch Pro, and the other player will use this. But of course, these Joy-Cons will not work with it. They're just too big. Now, the mid-bridge, in theory, will make it so that you can play the controller like this. I haven't seen any marketing material that shows how it looks or how it feels, but there are some marketing material, some images, etc., that show the mid-bridge being used with other NYXI controllers, and it looks like it works well. It looks like it's a good way to kind of join these together to have a full controller. But I'm not sure how good it would be because we don't have the actual grips here. I don't know. I'm not sure how good it would be. It's a cheap investment if you want to spend a few extra bucks when you're buying these. I can't comment at this point whether they're good or it's bad. I don't know, but I suspect it's maybe a little bit tight like this, but that's a similar experience you get here. But it's something to be aware of. There is a mid-bridge available. You might want to use it if you play with your on the television, etc. That might be something you want to pick up. The other thing to know, it's maybe a little bit obvious, but there's a lot of Nintendo accessories which just are not going to work. If you've got, for example, steering wheels for the official Joy-Cons, these will probably not fit the steering wheel. And you've got things like this as well. The idea that these slip in like this. Is it like that? Yeah, like that. Well, I can put this on for you, but not really designed for it. It might stick a little bit. It does that. And So I nearly broke my controller getting that off. So yeah, this will slide on. Not so good sliding it off. But yeah, these Joy-Cons, I think really the best case scenario for these Joy-Cons is that you use it with the Switch themselves. That's the best way to use it, in my opinion. It may, maybe it may work well with the mid-bridge. I don't know, but the way that I view the Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons is that they were designed to be used in handheld mode. It was designed to be used like this. And certainly, if that is their goal, and that's why you're buying this, then this is a fantastic replacement for the Joy-Cons, because obviously, they're just better controllers. But from a compatibility point of view, from using Nintendo accessories, etc., just be aware that all these kind of things, steering wheels and different things, will not be compatible with these larger Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons. Throughout this video, I've been talking about the features and specifications that the NYXI Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons offer. I've also spoke about how you can adjust the colors and lighting, the turbo buttons, the vibration, and the paddle buttons, the macro buttons at the back, ML and MR. And all of that was to give you a good understanding as to what these Joy-Cons are all about and how you could use them yourself. But what I'd like to do at this point is talk about my own experience of using these over the last 3 to 4 weeks. But I do have to stress before I do so that these are my first non-Nintendo, non-official Joy-Cons that I've ever used. Whenever I was playing on the television, I used the Switch Pro, but when I was using the Switch in handheld mode, these are the controllers that I used. So I really can't draw any comparison between these Joy-Cons and other third-party Joy-Con solutions on the market. But for me, this has been amazing. It's really transformed my experience of using the Switch. It's really transformed how I use the Switch. Now, I've said this many times. If you want to play the Switch or the upcoming Switch 2 on the television, sit back and relax on the sofa, on the couch, on a chair, get the Switch Pro. This, in my opinion, is the best Nintendo controller we've seen over the last 20, 30 years. It's amazing. It ticks every box, and it's the game controller to use for so many games. But if you're going to play in handheld mode, well, these Joy-Cons are amazing, and my Switch is upside down. But yes, these Joy-Cons are amazing, absolutely amazing. Visually, I love the RGB here, but I would probably lean towards disabling them myself to extend battery life. I do love the replaceable faceplates here. If I can get my finger in it, there we go. I do love these replaceable faceplates. Hopefully they'll add some to their store soon. I think it's a great idea. They're very easy to put on. These Joy-Cons do miss, infrared sensor. The vibration isn't that good because it doesn't have HD rumble, etc. But the thumbsticks here are amazing. They're just so good to use. It's really changed how I play certain games, how I play Zelda. It's not really there's too much light in this room. It's really changed how I've played Street Fighter and Mario and Legend of Zelda, etc. And the other thing are these buttons. And you can see here, the thumbsticks are bigger, the buttons are bigger. But what I love about these buttons is that they're just so responsive. They're very clicky. Not everyone is going to like clicky buttons. Personally, I do like them. They feel premium. They feel really nice to use. And they're very comfortable to use as well. And as far as comfort goes, you can see the grip here. It's just so much more natural in your hand. And the back paddle buttons here, they're disabled by default, but you can easily program them to any button, and they're in a really nice position where your hand sits. So I think they've done a very good job from an ergonomics point of view. The Joy-Cons just fit really well in your hand. And yeah, I just think they've done a fantastic job with these Joy-Cons. So I hope you've enjoyed my overview of the Hyperion 2 from NYXI. I think these Joy-Cons are amazing. This is the box, as you saw earlier. I can wholeheartedly recommend them, but as always, do your own research. Look at some other reviews of these Joy-Cons from other YouTubers. Look at other products as well if you're not sure. I never want you guys to go out there and buy something without doing your research. Always do your research before you spend money. But my experience is that if you're looking at buying official Joy-Cons, stop, because for the exact same money, you could pick up these Hyperion 2 Joy-Cons, and the experience is night and day. So very, very happy with them. Completely transformed how I use my Switch. My Switch is no longer gathering dust. So yeah, big fan of these. I've been really happy with it. Only thing I can't really talk about so far is battery life, just because, you know, I've been charging the Switch, and when I charge the Switch, these are getting charged at the same time. Battery life seems okay though, but I can't say whether I am going to get the full 10 hours that they promise, but I've got like 6 hours at least, I think, so far. So yeah, very happy with them. Can recommend. I'll leave some links to the official website, etc. Do some more research yourself. If you've enjoyed the video, please do consider subscribing to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and please do post a comment below. I do love hearing comments. I do love receiving comments from you guys. Post any questions that you've got. And until next time, thanks for watching and take care.